Hi, I'm Linda Augsburg, Executive Editor at American Patchwork and Quilting, and on today's Show Me How video, brought to you by the Baby Lock Crescendo machine, we're going to show you how to make this easy and sturdy denim tote. To get the instructions for the project, go to allpeoplequilt.com/showmehowtote. Let's get started. So what you need to have is 2 rectangles, 15 by 20, of your bag denim, and then 4 strips, 2 3/4 by 45 inches for your handles. Now once you've downloaded your pattern and your instructions, you'll print that pattern out and you'll see it's marked place on fold. So you'll fold those 2 15 by 20 inch rectangles in half, so they're 15 by 10. Place this edge on the fold and cut out the bag front and the bag back. Once all your pieces are cut, you're ready to sew. So the first thing you're going to do is sew the 2 side seams of your handles. So you're going to put your 2 handle strips right sides together and sew the long sides with a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Then you're going to want to turn them right side out. In order to do that, you can either put a big safety pin in and feed it through like you would elastic through a casing, or if it's easier for you, you can run a big basting stitch right across the end and then use something like a yardstick or some other pushing tool, a dowel rod, carefully, of course, safety first, to turn it right side out. Once you've turned your strap right side out, press it firmly and do the same with the second 2 strips. So you'll have 2 separate handle pieces. Now I want to mark the handle placement lines on my front and back bag pieces, and I want that on the right side of those bags. I'm using a chalk pencil in a pink color because on my dark denim I'm going to have a hard time seeing other marking tools. The handle lines, this is 2.5 inches from the center to the first handle line on both sides, or you can follow the placement lines on the pattern piece itself. So a few things about your denim bag. I've just worked a quick zigzag stitch on the edge of my denim front and back pieces, and the reason for that is this bag is going to get a lot of use and it's not lined, so I want to make sure that it does not ravel. And my seam allowance here is going to be a 1/2 inch, so as long as my zigzag or whatever you want to use to finish that edge is within that 1/2 inch amount, you'll be fine. Second, I've pinned my handles down. You can see where my chalk lines are right here. I've pinned those handles down, and I've stopped about 1 inch from the top of the bag. The reason I did that is I'm going to want to turn that edge down later, so I don't want the handles attached at this time over where I'm going to turn it down. Now I'm going to work a wide zigzag stitch, so I've gone to both my widest and my longest length, and I'm just going to sew that outer edge and the inner edge of that handle using that zigzag stitch. It's decorative and also holds it in place. Now at the end, I'm going to take a few tacking stitches just to hold that zigzag in place, because going back and forth with a zigzag will not really knot those ends off. So that's why we want to make those few stop stitches at the end. So now I'm going to sew the front to the back. I've pinned them right sides together. The handles are sandwiched between, and I made sure here at the bottom that all the handles line up perfectly. Again, with a 1/2 inch seam, going to do a little back stitch in the beginning just to secure that seam, and then sew a 1/2 inch seam all the way around the bag. I've tucked the handles inside the bag so that they don't get caught in this seam. And this is why we stopped. If you'll remember, we stopped about 1 inch from the top. That's why we want to have enough room to fold this down and stitch over, top stitch our hem without catching our handles in this step. So now you can see I've turned under that top edge about 1/4 inch, and then we folded it under twice. I've pinned it in place, and I'm actually going to start sewing underneath one of the handle seams so that the place where I begin and end won't really show, because later on I'll be zigzagging those handles up over it. So I'm just going to sew right along that edge, try and keep it as straight as possible, because you want to have a little, have that top stitching look good. But again, if you're using matching thread, it'll show less than here where I'm using contrasting thread. The contrasting thread just kind of adds a nice little touch. If you've got a free arm on your machine, this is a great time to use it. You want to be able to slip that bag in. So a free arm or a removable base so that you have just this little bit to sew on really will help a lot. We've taken the insert out of our cabinet in order to make this easier. And the final step is just to zigzag again, zigzagging from about a little bit below where you stopped before, so zigzag over those original zigs, and then up and around the handle on each side of the handle so that you've finished off this handle in the same way that it's attached to the bag. Just gives it a nice finishing touch, and if your fabric is thinner than mine, it gives it a little more stability. It's really that easy to make this tote. So make up a few. You'll love having them around. They're a great size to carry along with you. Again, for the instructions, go to allpeoplequilt.com/showmehow tote. Thanks for joining us.